Awesome. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining today's Partnerships Technical Town Hall. Really excited that you're all here. And we're going to be covering a bunch of different topics today. I'm going to be talking about the AI cloud, which is the most recent ship that we had to Vercel, and then also cover some other topics around Edge Network, latest releases, and V0. Before diving in, though, just a quick um, heads up, if you want to drop questions and comments while we go through this content, be sure to go to the community page and click the going button. Once you click that, then the chat will be unlocked for you to drop questions into the chat. And please drop questions into the chat. We'll have time for questions at the end, but I want to make sure that I'm providing all the necessary context and information that I can for you that's valuable. So we'll go ahead and get started here. But once again, if you have questions, feel free to stop me as we go. For those of you that haven't met me, my name is Alex Hawley. I am the Senior Manager of Partner Solutions at Vercel. I've been here for approaching 3 years, and I work technically with all of Vercel's partners to help make sure that we're building great solutions on the web. And today I get to have this town hall to get some of those best practices and information to you, as well as for those of you that haven't met me, make sure that you know who I am. So if you have questions, you can always reach out. For today's agenda, I'm going to be hitting a bunch of different topics. First, I'm going to talk about the AI cloud. You may have heard of it. It's Vercel, and it's our recent change from the front end cloud to the AI cloud. So I'm going to give some context around why the shift, why now, what does it mean, and how you can start using the AI cloud for your projects. After I go through the AI cloud, I'm going to talk a bit about Edge Network and or Vercel's Edge Network and firewall. I receive quite a few questions a week around the semantics, the details, how you use the Edge Network and firewall, why you want to use it, as well as if you have a third-party CDN, can you use it with Vercel? Should you just use Vercel? And I'm going to go through all that information so you have it, as well as provide some resources. So if you want to look deeper into the Edge Network and firewall, you have all those available. And then Vercel is always shipping. So I'm going to have a review of some of the latest releases that we've had. I don't have nearly enough time to go through all the releases that we had the last quarter. So I've picked some of the major ones that I feel like are most prevalent right now, and then I'll go through some of the details. And those will include some recent ships that we had to V0, which is shipping every day. And then I'll also do a demo of some of the latest features on the platform. And like I mentioned already twice, if you have questions, we'll have time at the end to take them. But please, as I go through, feel free to drop questions into the chat. All right, but first, it feels like it was years ago, but it really was just not that long ago, at the end of June, where we had Vercel ship. And thank you everyone that came in person to attend in New York, and those that viewed remotely or at one of our watch sessions abroad. It was a fantastic time, and we had a bunch of new features and announcements that we shipped. The biggest ship being that Vercel is now the AI cloud. And with the AI cloud comes a whole new set of products and features that are going to equip you to build even richer, more dynamic experiences on the web, specifically targeted towards AI experiences and agents. So, in talking about the AI cloud, I wanted to set some context and a little bit of a history lesson around why the AI cloud now and how did we get here. And when I thought about this transition, I just kept on thinking back on this is really kind of a progression that we've had over many, many years of web development. If we go far back, maybe 6 or 7 years, I think we can all acknowledge that there was a strong preference for static applications online. They're very fast. It's very easy to deploy them. It's generally low cost, and that did the job for many businesses and applications. But there grew a need to have more dynamic and personalized experiences online. And we saw this shift from static to dynamic. And Vercel built the front end cloud to provide all the infrastructure and tools that engineers need to build these really rich dynamic experiences that don't compromise on speed or security. So that was the front end cloud. And then I think we can all acknowledge that right now we're going through another shift, which is this this shift to an agentic web, or a web that uses a lot of AI experiences online. And this is what customers and users are now somewhat expecting. So with this shift comes a whole different set of requirements that you need to hit if you're going to build a web application. You got to think about how to build agents, which is a new interface and UI, and there's new infrastructure that you need to handle. So Vercel has built on top of the front end cloud now a new set of primitives and products and features that's going to equip you again with everything that you need to build for this shifting web that's now agentic. So it's everything that Vercel was before, but with a much more robust catalog of products, both front end focused as well as back end, that you can use. Hence, Vercel is now the AI cloud, provides everything that you need, the developer experience, the infrastructure to build, scale, and secure intelligent apps and agents. And I'll add that are also very fast. So just as Vercel was before, Vercel is an end-to-end platform for everything that you need for AI apps. And what I like about the framing that we have on the slide is, for me, these three areas are the same as what they were before. Vercel, but they're now enhanced for AI. So, for example, Vercel has global dynamic hosting. I'm going to talk about this at length a little bit when I get to the edge network, but Vercel has globally available edge network. It has compute across the globe. It is high performant, scalable, and secure. This is great for web applications a year ago, and it's going to be great for agentic experiences tomorrow. So this is going to be the first piece of this end-to-end platform. And then your teams need more now than ever the tools and the collaboration for moving as quickly as possible and iterating as quickly as possible, but safely, and having the tools to facilitate this. So, Vercel's developer experience platform provides the tools for you to move quickly and also have that agility to move at the speed of AI. This is going to include things like Vercel's preview deployments and comments, the Vercel toolbar, which is going to let you do even more kind of like testing directly on your website that is in production or in a preview environment, or it's going to involve you using feature flags to safely roll out new features. And then last, but definitely not least, is security. So when prior to the AI cloud, front end cloud, we released the web application firewall, provided everything you needed to protect your application against threats. And it's going to be even more important now with these new AI and agentic workloads. You're going to have endpoints or routes that are now even perhaps more, that need to be more protected and more locked down than they were before. And there's more available for you to do that. So this slide is just meant to show you at a glance some of the products that we've announced and that we've enhanced, and I'll go through in detail many of these. Some of these you've also probably seen before. The last town hall that we had, I talked about Fluid Compute. Fluid Compute is now better than it was the last town hall, and similar for Firewall. Firewall is now more capable than it was the last town hall a quarter ago. And then we have a bunch of new products. So I'm going to go one by one. And then after this, I'll talk more about Firewall. But again, if you have any questions, you can always send it over to the team. So first is Fluid Compute. So at the last town hall, I actually had a whole section of the town hall dedicated to just talking about Fluid Compute. Fluid Compute is all about maximizing your compute time and not charging you for what you don't use. And what you don't use is idle time. And how Fluid Compute works is you have a Vercel function, a serverless function that gets invoked for a request. And if there's idle time during that invocation, so let's say that request comes in and you're serving some content or some data, there is a period of idle time where you're waiting on a response for that database or from that CMS. While that is being handled, there's idle time, and in that idle time, that function can now handle other requests. So you're paying for the invocation of one function, but you're handling more than one request. And at the last town hall, that was what we announced. We announced that you can have in-function concurrency with Fluid Compute, and now you have these really efficient compute primitives. But at Vercel Ship, we announced that now we have active CPU pricing. So even in the event where you have a function that's picking up multiple requests, you could still have some idle time that's unused that you were paying for. But now, if you have Fluid Compute enabled, which is enabled by default, you don't pay for that idle time. So it's now super cost effective. You only pay for what you use. So super great for integrating AI into your applications because if you're waiting on the response from an LLM, which takes a very long time, you're not going to sweat that idle time at all because you're not paying for it. So super efficient for AI workloads. Also, just super great in general for any application where you have a dependency on another service, or otherwise an application that's not 100% CPU locked whenever users accessing your site, which is very unlikely to happen. The next product that we released that you can use today is Bot ID. So Bot ID is invisible bot filtering. You can think of it as basically an invisible CAPTCHA for your most critical routes and pages on your site. Routes like your login, checkout, AI endpoints that you want to make sure are protected. And Bot ID is a really nice, simple SDK that you can throw into your code base or just flip on. And there's a couple of modes that you can run in. You can run in a basic mode, which basically just makes sure that the request coming to you is from a valid browser session. Or you can opt in for deep analysis, which is powered by our partner Casada, which will enable a very advanced level of protection. It still provides you a nice yes or no response, so your code doesn't change. But under the hood, Casada is using machine learning and aggregating the data points from thousands and thousands of requests to figure out on what is a bot request and what is a human request and give you a more reliable result. Again, very easy to enable and including the code snippet here because it is very simple to just throw onto a route. And this is going to be huge for protecting your application against any sort of automated attacks, unwanted scraping, or fraud. Next is the AI SDK 5. We just released version 5. If you haven't used the SDK or the AI SDK, it is just like an absolute joy to work with. It is a unified API or AI provider API. It is a way for you to connect and integrate an AI or LLM into your application in a very agnostic way. So if you're, for instance, connecting to OpenAI to use one of their models, you would implement it with the AI SDK. And then if at any point down the road you want to use an Anthropic model, you can swap that LLM change in a single line of code. Your underlying implementation doesn't change at all. So very agnostic. This has always been a feature of the AI SDK, but in version 5 we added a bunch of other utilities and enhanced the other features that the AI SDK included. I actually should have noted that. It's not just the connection to the LLMs that you get. It also comes with a whole set of utilities for building UIs that are perfect for agents. So having like an agentic loop or having any sort of UI that you want to render that's like a chat, the AI SDK also provides. But in version 5, we enhanced all of this. So we now have improved type support basically across the board. We have a nice separated UI and model messages flow. So you can send a set of messages to the front end that the user sees, and then a separate set of messages to the LLM, which will provide it with context. And now it's more segmented, more clear, easier to operate with. We have support for server sent events and a lot more to it. There's also deeper support for agentic loop control. So if you have an agent that's looping and it's like calling itself to make sure that it creates an even kind of like deeper result. We have primitives now in the SDK for stop when, prepare step. If you want to build agents using the structured agent class, there's now an experimental class that you can use. And along this, we've also improved how tools get invoked with, again, type safety, better error states. Again, just improving kind of the experience overall. And I should note this is not just supported for Next.js or React. You can also use the AI SDK in Vue, Svelte, and Angular. Next is the AI Gateway. So AI Gateway has overlap with the AI SDK, but it's at a much kind of like um, higher level. So the AI SDK might help make sure that it's really easy to write code that connects to an LLM. The AI gateway is about giving you connections to those LLM providers through a unified service. So this is a unified API for more than 100 models across all the top providers. The benefit here would be if you didn't use the AI gateway, even if you were using the AI SDK, you're probably logging into OpenAI, you're logging into Anthropic or Hugging Face, you're finding where in those dashboards you got to get an API key. You're looking at usage now across a bunch of different services. Cost may be a concern. How you track that is all different. But with the AI gateway, it's all one uniform experience and API. You can have tracking all consolidated into one place. And then on top of this, we have additional functionality. So we have fallback if there's a need to load balance. It's all built into the gateway, and you don't have to figure that out yourself. You can track usage. If you do have keys in these services, you can bring them along. And then also, what's really nice about this that's good to know is that we're not charging any overhead for these requests. So you're paying the same amount to use the AI gateway as you would if you were going directly to Anthropic or OpenAI, for example. Next is the Vercel sandbox. So the Vercel sandbox is a way for you to run untrusted code by AI agents. Every time I read this, I think by AI agents. It could be by anything. It's a way to run untrusted code, probably particularly by AI agents. And you can run it in an isolated ephemeral environment, which you can tear down, which only has access to the explicit things you want to have access to, so that if it's running code, you don't have to worry about there being damage or side effects to other areas of your infrastructure. You can run both Node and Python in the sandbox, and this is going to be a great tool for building dynamic experiences and tools that can generate code on the fly. We actually have a template that we published last week where one of our engineers basically rebuilt V0 using Sandbox among other Vercel primitives to show that you could basically use this to create some of the more advanced vibe coding solutions that are out there. So it's a super powerful primitive that we have now, and I definitely recommend folks to, give it a look. There's a lot more to the AI cloud than I can hit on in 1 hour. We have a lot of great resources and blogs around the announcements that we made and the enhancements that we're making. So I'm including a link up here for you to read more. Our Dan Fine has written a great article kind of summarizing a lot of what I talked about, but also giving resources. So another recommendation for me is to check that out. All right. So moving on. Um, Adjacent, I'd say, or not adjacent to the AI cloud. We're still under the umbrella of AI cloud, but not particularly focused on all the new products. I want to talk about Vercel's Edge Network and Firewall. These are things that are products that we've had for quite a while, that are obviously still being improved and enhanced. But I want to take a moment to talk about what they are, as well as address some common questions that I've seen come up from partners, as well as surface any other questions from you, if there's areas that are uncertain. So one question that we receive a lot is a customer of ours or a partner of ours is building a site. Maybe it's for a legacy site, and they have another CDN that's already there, and they're trying to figure out, does it make sense to have that CDN? Maybe there was pressure from leadership that there should be another CDN added. What's the impact? What's the recommendation? And I consolidated this all down into one slide to basically give the opinion that Vercel has, sort of architecture. And generally speaking, our recommendation is that you absolutely do not need to bring another CDN or another web application firewall to your solution on Vercel. There's a number of different reasons, which I'll go through here. The first, probably most obvious one is cost effectiveness. So if you have two CDNs, it's obviously cheaper, or it's obviously more expensive than having one CDN, which is fairly obvious. But not only is it cheaper, you're also, when you bring another CDN to your solution on Vercel, you're also degrading the value of Vercel because, for example, you're limiting Vercel's ability to triage and mitigate issues that may occur because there's another party in the loop that we don't have access to and that we can't see. One of the great things about Vercel is this end-to-end platform, as I was detailing before, is when a request comes in to a point of presence to Vercel's edge network, basically the starting point, all the way until they potentially hit a function at origin. You have full visibility into what that request is, how fast it is, what is the request, what is the user agent of that thing, so you can protect your site from it, but then also cater the experience directly to that request. When you add a CDN on top of it, you're basically degrading the ability for you to have that ability, as well as Vercel to have that ability. Hand in hand with this is reliability. So, if you add another CDN, it's another area that could fail. it sounds hilarious to me, but I really like this quote that one some of our tech leaders have said, which is if you take 99.99% uptime and you multiply it by 99.99% uptime, the result is not 99.99%. And it's obviously true. If you add a CDN there, you're dealing with another point of failure. And then especially when you consider that you're going to have to configure that CDN, which is going to be fairly custom process probably for you. It's not going to be zero config for that CDN as it is for Vercel. So reliability is going to be less. And just like I mentioned, this configuration, kind of like, or this reliability overhead, there's going to be a maintenance burden where you're going to need to spend time upfront to configure the CDN the right way. If you add a page in the future, or you add an API route, or you're breaking out some section of your site, you're going to have to continuously think about this other CDN and whether it's configured correctly or not. So it's this debt that you incur by adding it. And the theme that with Vercel is zero configuration. You don't have to worry about it when it's just Vercel. And then the last item, again, I think another one that's fairly obvious, though we do have data for it, is performance is going to degrade. When you have another CDN, you have that extra hop, it's going to hurt performance. Performance is important. It's going to impact SEO. It's going to impact conversion. It's going to be important for your customers' bottom line. We have a site, ismyhostfastyet.vercel.app, that has aggregated some of the data points for Core Web Vitals across different hosting providers, and also will annotate Vercel as a CDN versus Vercel as a CDN plus another CDN. And if you look at it, you can see that Vercel, when it's just alone, on average, is much faster than other solutions. So it is proven that this is definitely a faster and better solution. To just kind of cover again the description of edge network and what I'm talking about when I'm putting this forward as the recommendation as a standalone solution. Vercel's network is global. There's over 100 points of presence across 90 plus cities. There's reliably a point of presence close to a user that they're going to hit that's going to give them a fast response. We have 19 compute capable global edge regions where you can run compute and also co-locate with any other sort of critical services or databases that you need to have that literally small distance between them. And you can think of this network as basically being a super fault tolerant private fiber that's super fast. This is super fast highway that your users are on when they're trying to get to your content or to your application. But then it's enhanced by a bunch of other features like our advanced routing. So if you want to run compute at the edge via our routing middleware, look at the request, where they're coming from, maybe cookies that they have or some other metadata about the request, and then rewrite them or redirect them to a different part of your app. You can absolutely do that. And you can do that super low latency. So routing, a key part kind of built in, again, zero config. You don't have to think about it. You just write your business logic. And then when the user does get routed to your application and they hit your server or they hit your compute or your edge region, it's very likely they're going to hit the edge cache with a hit. If they don't, they will get passed through to origin, and then they'll have a fluid compute function waiting for them. And the key thing here is that this is all zero configuration. You don't have to really think about any of this. You just write your application, whether it's Next.js, Nuxt, or any other front end framework, and Vercel handles provisioning and setting up this caching for you. The firewall, part of the edge network, also very important. There's a platform and application firewall. The platform-wide firewall covers you for layer 3, layer 4 threats like DDoS attacks. Vercel is very good about this. We prevent more than 1 billion malicious requests weekly. Once a request gets through that platform firewall gate, and then it will then hit the web application firewall. The web application firewall is what you can control to apply any sort of rules that you specifically want to target, maybe deny users on or challenge or otherwise log so that you have observability. And this is all in control and through the Vercel dashboard for you. And what's nice and kind of gets back to like the kind of the nicety of having this all on one stack is if you set a persistent action, like for example, that there's one IP that you just want to always deny, you can set a persistent action that triggers for that IP, you deny them, and then that gets synced upstream to the platform API. So it's integrated solution that provides the best experience for management, but also for the end user. And then don't want to annotate slash, I'd have to refer to the docs, but there's a ton of different metadata you can look at for requests that comes in, like the IP, geolocation, uh, the fingerprint. List goes on and on. So I recommend folks to take a look at our docs for that. But you can craft custom rule sets around that, or just flip on a pre-made rule set like the OWASP top 10 if you just want to fire that on and then never have to worry about it again. I have this diagram up because I'm a visual person and it's helpful for me to see a diagram that shows how a request comes in and then goes through Vercel's infrastructure. There's a great resource or set of resources that I'll put on the next slide that goes into this in even more detail, where it kind of expands each box so you can see exactly what's in there. But I hope that this also makes it clear to you exactly what happens when a request comes in. So I already kind of described it. But basically, when a user comes in to or goes to your application, they're going to enter through a point of presence. They're going to enter the Vercel Edge network. It's going to hit Vercel's firewall. Again, this consists of the platform-wide firewall, basically preventing attacks without you having to do anything. If it gets through that gate, goes to the web application firewall, so you can write your own rules, have your own observability around what's coming in. And then any routing that you have, whether it's middleware or a custom routing config, executes, sends the user to where they need to be on your application. It's going to be very likely that they hit the edge cache and they're probably done at this point. They have the cache response that they see. But if they don't and they need to go to a Vercel function, then we have fluid compute waiting for them to run that function and then give them the response. So there's a lot more to it than this that I can voice over. We have another awesome blog written by Dan that goes through the life of a Vercel request. Again, in intricate detail around what exactly happens. Again, recommend folks take a look at this. I think sometimes it's easy to just think about requests in kind of an abstract way, and it over time seems like it's very simple, and it can't possibly be doing that much. But if you read through this blog post, I think it'll be clear that the Vercel team's gone through like taking painstaking effort over years of development to build a solution that's extremely robust so that it's zero config and you just gain the benefits by shipping on Vercel. All right. That is what I had for Edge Network and Firewall. Next, I want to go through some of the latest releases, and then at the end, I'll show some of the latest features on V0, which also just had a big announcement. So first, those of you that have been in the Vercel dashboard probably at all in the last month will have noticed that there's probably a banner if you've had a set of applications deployed for a while now that Node.js is going to be deprecated on September 1st. So you definitely want to upgrade your application versions as soon as you can. We're making it very easy. You can do a bulk upgrade for these deprecated versions through a single button click, just by logging into your team and going to your project settings. So I'm including a link here via the QR code if you want to take a look at this changelog, and then there will be an obvious link to go to your team if you want to go ahead and upgrade these versions. Next, and this was announced at Vercel Ship, but it's now in public beta. Micro front-end support is now available for you to use. So micro front-ends is the idea that if you have a very large application, the larger and larger that application gets, the longer it takes to build, the longer it takes to ship, and the longer it takes to ship, the more likely you're going to be slowed down from shipping new features. So micro front-ends is a solution for that. You can basically split up your application into smaller chunks, and then each individual team, for instance, could own a section of the site, and then they're completely unblocked by other teams. They can just ship features when they have them ready to go. So micro front-end support is available in Vercel, which means now that when you ship a micro front-end to Vercel, you can benefit from prefetching and pre-rendering on navigations between those microsite or those micro front-ends. And then you also have tools built into like the Vercel toolbar where you can easily test different micro front-ends. Very easy to get started. You just have to go to the micro front ends tab in the project settings. Also, you could go to this QR code, take a look at the change log. We have formal documents on it. This is awesome. Huge request that we've gotten for quite a while now. I should also note, not just available for Next.js. If you have other frameworks that you'd like to use with the micro front end architecture, you can totally do so. We have docs written for those as well. The next release that we had, this one is super exciting. Just seeing some awesome stuff being built with this. The V0 platform API is now in beta. This is headless V0. So if you wanted to build, your version of V0, or you're like, man, this one thing that V0 does is so good, I just want to build an app that uses that feature, you can do that now. So the platform API is available. If you have a V0 account, you can set up an API using your API key and start building. This is going to equip you with being able to parse code responses. You can run Next.js applications in the browser. You can take control of V0, like creating and managing chats. A use case that we're talking to some partners about today is you could create your own complete white labeled V0 if you wanted to. In fact, we have a V0 community template that is a clone of V0, which is, I can acknowledge, very meta that you'd be building V0 in V0. But it's super cool. You can reference it, see how it was built, start customizing it to your case. This goes hand in hand with the announcement that I covered before. So we have now higher defaults and limits for Fluid Compute. So this was basically unlocked by active CPU pricing. With Fluid Compute enabled, which uses active CPU pricing, you're now going to have higher defaults and limits for all tiers. So if you're on Hobby Pro or Enterprise, the default is now 300 seconds for execution time, and then we've also bumped up the specs on these tiers as well. If you're using Fluid Compute, I should also note that there is no the basic CPU instance has been removed. So there's only now going to be standard and performance mode. If you were eagle-eyed and caught it earlier, you may have noted that we're no longer at 18 compute-capable regions. Vercel now has 19, and it's because we've added the Dubai Vercel region to extend our edge network and compute to the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia. There's nothing you have to do right now. You're going to be taking advantage of this automatically right now. If you would like to change what your primary compute region is, like you're co-locating your compute with a database that's in the Middle East, all you have to do to take advantage is go to your project settings. So again, more information out of the changelog and documentation. But again, you'll be kind of using this automatically. All right, slight change of pace with the releases. So talking about V0 now, we had an announcement this week. V0.dev is now V0.app. It is truly the AI builder for everyone, whether you're an engineer, a project manager, product manager, designer, or just someone that feels like they need to build something that you have a very strong opinion on. You can use V0 to build that thing. And V0 now is also launching with a new agentic experience. You'll see it in a second when I demo, but there's now a agent mode where V0 is going to be even more thoughtful and thorough than what it was before, with creating UI and um, creating dynamic full stack applications. Prior to that announcement, we've been shipping since the announcement and prior, but the but the other announcements that I wanted to highlight, which I'm particularly excited about, is we now support, or V0 now supports, queuing messages. This was awesome because I often got in this habit of I get a V0 generation and then I'm nitpicky, so there's a ton of stuff that I want to change, and every time I put a change in there, I'd be stuck waiting until it was done before I could continue. So I would queue up these very long bulleted lists in my chat just so I can send it all at once. But now you don't need to worry about that. You could start prompting as soon as you see something that you want to change. As it's generating, you just queue more messages into the queue. Now we also have design mode. So if you don't want a prompt to change, you can do that very easily. You could always go to code mode before, but with design mode, you can just flip into a different tab on the left hand side, and then you're going to have the ability to click on any element on your page, and then adjust the tailwind styles to your heart's content for what you want to change. And what's nice also about this is, besides having more specificity around what you want to change, none of this accrues any sort of usage around your V0 token. So if you know very specifically, for example, the icon that you want, no sense asking V0 to do it. You can just change it yourself. And then taking this even further, what I like is you can also just jump straight to the area of the code if you want to change it. Again, because I'm nitpicky, I like to go straight into the code base sometimes and like change it exactly the way that I want, rather than waiting for for V0 to do it. So this design mode is truly integrated across V0 now, making it really easy to make changes. So with that, let me jump into V0 and then we'll take a look at the new agent mode and then also some of these features that I just showed. So what I'm going to do first is, so this is v0.app, and I'm just going to paste in a prompt that I made beforehand. So I'm going to have it create a landing page for me. I'm going to ask it to create a clean, modern agency marketing landing page. I want the primary color to be blue. I want there to be liquid glass elements, and let's incorporate some subtle micro animations wherever V0 sees fit. So V0 now is, like I mentioned, very thoughtful, more thoughtful about how it builds these applications. You'll see it's crafting a design brief. It's going to come up with a plan for me to, or for it to follow to create this web application. And then it's also going to adjust or fix issues as it generates. So the quality is going to be much higher. It's going also just much more capable of understanding complex requirements and hitting what you're looking for. So this is going to generate this response. While this is generating, I also want to highlight a cool feature that we've kind of launched, which I think this underscores this agentic kind of like new UI. If you go to our AI SDK docs, you'll notice that we now have a new component library called AI Elements. This was built on top of ShadCN UI, which is going to be a whole set of components that you can use to build AI native applications faster. So all the primitives that we were just looking at in V0, like the thinking status, the accordions that kind of like aggregate the thought process, the chat itself, the even the web UI where it's rendered, are now available as AI elements. You can see we have the basic building blocks here, actions, branches, the conversation you can use, the loading states, the input box, and like I mentioned, including the web preview. So if you want to render an app, you have a component to do exactly that. So again, if you're building anything with an agent, AI SDK really does have it all. Let's flip back to V0 and see how we're doing. Okay, so this is the site that I asked for. It did pretty good. Um, the like glass morphism that I asked for is very subtly there behind the header nav. But it definitely nailed the primary color that I was looking for. But let's go ahead and make some changes. So um, I don't feel like award-winning agency is big enough. I don't like that we're using emojis for the services. So let's go ahead and queue up some of these changes. So I'm just going to say, make the award agency larger. And then don't use emojis uh, for the services section. Use the icons. All right. So I can easily queue that up. And the next thing for it to handle, you can see it very clearly. Set the award-winning agency as in a larger text, and then let's see how it nails the icons. If there's one thing, this is like the honestly not really that great or not that valuable, but one just nice thing that AI has done that I really like is icon selection. I just I struggle to find an icon that I feel great about. I can just nitpick icons all day long. So just having just having a service that can pick it for me is just really nice to have. All right. So this, yeah, definitely nailed the two changes that I want. We have those emojis out of there. But let's say that we want to make some changes. And maybe we don't want to use V0 to do it necessarily. Let's go ahead and adjust some of the styles about this ready to get started page. Um, for example, I don't need to have a view pricing here. Let's just go ahead and have it just say schedule a call. I can flip into design mode and I can click on view pricing. You can see once I click on an element, I get all the different styles that I can change without doing a round trip to V0. And I'm just gonna delete it, but I could delete it straight through design mode here, but I could also go to the code, which I'd probably do anyway, just to see how the underlying structure looks. But it looks fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get this button out of here. I'm going to save that. Go back. Oh, to the chat. Go back to the front end so we can clearly see that I removed that button. No round trip was needed. But that's a very brief kind of crash course through some of the new changes that I had. But again, definitely recommend folks take a look at it. The new V0 and the agent experience. Um, and if you haven't checked it out, I browse it, must be every other day. I love going into the community, see what people are building, see what you could fork and start kind of riffing on yourself. All right. Well, going back now to the slides, that concludes the content that I wanted to go over. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Um, if there's no questions, I don't see anything in the chat here. But if you have any questions, these are the contacts you can reach out to. Feel free to hit me up at alex.hawley@vercel.com. Or you can reach out to the partner program at partner.program@vercel.com. And an exciting thing that we're working on that we're soon going to grant access to partners on is Basewell, which is going to be our enablement hub so that you can have self-serve content in your fingertips for when you want to access some of the guides, resources, best practices with Vercel. I actually am logged in as a partner right here. You'll see that we have easy experience to follow to get started. Very clearly, you will start here, but then once you have access, you can go in to our library, see all the different resources we have available. For example, we have a whole section just on like Vercel and Sitecore. I'm biased because I work with Sitecore all the time, so I think that the resources that we have here are great, but we also have resources spanning many different topics. So stay tuned on that. Or if you're looking for access, please again reach out to the partner.program@vercel.com team alias, and we'll get you access. But if there's no other questions, which I don't see any questions in the chat, thanks for joining again. It's a pleasure to run these sessions, and I'll see you in the next one.